Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is Dawnbringers, Ghosts of
Ghosts of Saltmarsh, not Schmarsh.
Ghosts of Smarsh. Welcome to Ghosts of Smarsh. I have not been drinking. This is Dawnbringers, Ghosts of Saltmarsh, Season 3, Episode 7, and I've entitled this episode Jailhouse Rock. Since we left off with the characters having congregated outside the jail, which we will find out more about in a moment. We are going to, because we got a little bit of a late start, I'm not going to do the usual full spiel of announcements that we do at the beginning, and we are going to transition a lot of that into the break time intermission video, which was the whole purpose of it. But just know that we are partnered with Jasper's Game Day. We are partnered with Initiative Coffee Company. You can type !Jasper or !Coffee in the chat to get the pertinent information for either of those. And then I'm looking up, I had one of our regular viewers, I don't know if they are here in the chat right now, but after our game, we kicked off our Legends and Legacies new every other week campaign this Tuesday, and Quinian was kind enough to provide me with a full list of the Canadian Suicide Prevention Hotline information. And Tuesday was World Suicide Awareness Day. But that is one message before we roll right into the game. One of the things I want to talk about is if you find yourself needing to talk to somebody, if you are having any doubts, or just find yourself in a troubled spot, at any point, you can type help in the chat, and that will bring up the American National Suicide Hotline, where trained professionals are waiting to talk to you. We highly encourage you and urge you, if you even think you might need to talk to somebody, do not hesitate to call that number. You are important, you matter, and the people on the other end of that line can help you to get the help you need. That number is 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255, or you can text 741-741. And Quinian had given me the additional Canadian information, which I see Megan also just put into the chat, part of it. There is the new Canadian Suicide Prevention Service, CSPS, by Crisis Services Canada. Enables callers anywhere in Canada to access crisis support by phone in French or English, toll-free at 1-833-456-4566, available 24/7. You can also text the crisis text line by texting CONNECT in English. That's CONNECT. I don't know if there's a new... Oh yeah, text connect for English, or parler, PARLER in French, to 686-868 to gain that help in Canada. And I will have all that information added into our help text code. So when you type help, you will get all that information, and maybe even if I can get some other information in there. It is all very important. It is very clear that one of the things we are very passionate about here is suicide awareness and suicide prevention. So please utilize those numbers if you need them. The last thing I want to mention, also that number is also scrolling along the bottom throughout the game. I do want to thank D&D Beyond for granting Mini Terrain Domain D&D Beyond Insider access. You can mouse over the stream and you will see the characters popping up on the left-hand side. You can click through on those, get more information about the characters in this game or any D&D game that takes place on the channel, including tomorrow night, Alan's CFT RPG's production of Curse of Strahd. Two last things real quick. Thank you to our wonderful supporters, being you, the people in the audience. And I'm not going to lie, one supporter above all others that has contributed greatly to and has achieved their goal of getting these players, the Dawnbringers, over 100 domain dice. So huge thank you to Chameleon Fam, Joey P, and everybody else who donates either through tipping, $5 per domain die, or through subscriptions, resubscriptions, raids, all that kind of stuff, has earned these players domain dice. And they have plenty of them, and hopefully we'll start using them. You actually have, we did earn a couple at the end. I have it written down. You guys actually are at 107. So keep that in mind. There are a couple of modifications to the domain dice rules. I'll be enacting them officially a little bit later, but the only modification is when you use the 1d20 to re-roll any one of your re-rolls, or the 2d domain dice to force me to re-roll, it doubles if it's a critical fail that you're trying to re-roll. That's the only modification. I'm also looking for potentially for another boon to throw in there as well. Anyway, so that's the domain dice. And speaking of subscriptions and all that good stuff, I would be remiss if I did not mention that it is September on Twitch, meaning that all tier 1 subscriptions are 50% off, and that entire amount goes to the creators and helps support the channel. And if you have been given a gift subscription, or you have used your free Twitch Prime subscription and you convert that to a paid tier 1 subscription, those are also 50% off. And I would just like to say we are 4 subs away from unlocking a new sub emote, which means, and those sub emotes are available to all subscribers in the chat. The new sub emote will be a domain die. So whenever we reach that, we're going to add a domain die to the emotes in the chat. Okay. That's all the announcements. I don't know about you guys, but I want to play some D&D. And get back into the Ghosts of Saltmarsh and see what the Dawnbringers are going to do. In our recent sessions, the Dawnbringers finally found themselves, after a brief sidetrack with a sea elf by the name of Ira, they found themselves back in Saltmarsh, expecting to meet up with their previous captain, Captain Stark Dervish, and the dwarves that they were tasked to escort from all the way from the Sword Coast to Kaeland and here in Saltmarsh to assist in the mining operations. However, what they discovered instead, after another sidetrack, though very important one, to get Griveth cleansed of his corruption, a very successful ritual that took place, they discovered that the dwarves have been quarantined on the Evangeline in the bay with an embargo of ships blocking the vessel from entering into the docks. They've also discovered that Captain Dervish himself, along with a couple of the crew, most notably the bosun Arnold, the quartermaster Giselle, and the surgeon Matilda, they've all been imprisoned in the Saltmarsh jail under suspicions of operating as slavers. So the current situation is that the dwarves are held in quarantine, believed to be slaves that are riddled with disease, and that Dervish and crew are slavers. As the characters eventually figured this out, the Dawnbringers figured this out, and they made their way to the jail, one name was on everyone's lips as a trustworthy source of somebody to talk to, and that was Eleander Firebrand, the retired military veteran turned town guard captain, who also they were told would be found at the jail. But when they arrive at the jail, they see a very tense situation brewing and boiling, looking like it's about to bubble over, as nearly 100 townsfolk of all varieties are pressing against 20 guards in front of the jail and seem to be fighting amongst themselves, or rather at this point arguing amongst themselves, while a man who appears that it is Eleander Firebrand himself stands up on a wooden raised platform and begins telling the crowd to calm down. This situation, you can see, you have Eleander Firebrand doing his best to be heard above the crowd. You have a crowd that seems to be almost evenly split between two different groups that, through the din, you can't quite yet tell what exactly they are arguing about. You have 20 Saltmarsh guards with shields and spears holding the line, pressing, but they look agitated, they look worn out. As you approach this scene, Dawnbringers, what would you like to do? I'd say at this point, where you're visualizing it, where you've actually taken this scene in, we'll say that you're still probably a couple hundred feet away, maybe 200 or 300 feet away. You've just kind of crested this hill, come around this bend, and you see the sight unfolding before you. What would you like to do?
Talmud leans over to Thorgarn and says, How much you want to bet that that has something to do with us?
I'd bet all the gold I got.
Well, I don't want to take your money from you. Then you won't be able to buy me a drink later.
Well, it seems like you've already had enough as early as it is.
That's offensive to say. It's
In
not that early.
case you missed last session, you went straight to the tavern after we healed Griveth. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
So I'm looking around and I'm trying to ascertain how much people are focused forward and whether there's any ability to realize if a pair of dwarves, regardless of who we're walking with, kind of walk into this, how much of a ruckus do we think we're going to cause just by our sheer presence?
Give me a perception check.
Perception. I was hoping you would say insight.
I'm gonna have you make a perception check.
Yeah, I'm gonna take one of those rerolls.
All right, that puts you at 106.
Oh dear Lord! Exact same number on the die. It was a 2 both times, so that is a 3.
They look pretty pissed. You just see a throng of people. I'll still allow you to make an insight check, though, to see if you can gauge. V, remind me again what Cantriel's passive is. I know it's ridiculously high.
18.
18, okay.
So 21.
Despite the fact that you see this throng of people, you do get the sense that their tension is very much geared forward. And especially with Eleander Firebrand having stepped up on the platform. And even now he sort of paces, and you can, at this distance, you can hear this sort of, he takes a step and then you hear dunk, dunk, as you observed that he had a wooden peg leg when he was helped up onto this platform. And you can hear the peg leg hitting the wooden surface as he seems to be pacing back and forth and getting their attention. You can begin to pick out little bits and pieces of what people are yelling. And Cantriel, you notice what Thorgarn failed to notice is that within the division of this crowd, there does seem to be a fair number of dwarves that are mixed into the crowd. In almost every instance, these dwarves are filthy. Not like they're like destitute and poor, but they look like working class dwarves, miners that have come up off shift and are immediately engaged in whatever this discussion is. Thorgarn, you can start to pick out, well, all of you can start to pick this out, that half of the group seems to be giving out cries and shouts of that sound like, hang them now, put them on trial, make it public, we want to see them swing. And then the other half is yelling, let them go, they did nothing, you know this is a farce, it's all a show. Are you all still progressing towards the crowd? Have you stopped to assess?
Thorgarn might not have picked up on it, but maybe Cantriel's more sensitive perceptions, are we able to, or is she able to ascertain whether the dwarves are trying to get them killed or whether the dwarves are trying to, get them released?
The dwarves are very much the ones that are calling for release.
Okay.
In fact, I would even say with Cantriel's passive, and anybody that either rolls or has a passive of higher than, say, a 14, you can begin to see that there's this mixture of the dwarves with the miners in there taking up one side, along with a few people that tend to be a little more dressed a little more in the I don't want to say noble. They're not like dressed in finery, but they don't seem to be working class folk.
Merchants?
Not even merchants, really surprising. There's a few merchants, but there's also some merchants that are in amongst the other group, which is very clearly made up of a lot of the local fisher folk. So this, based on the limited information you all have received prior to and as you've come into Saltmarsh, this seems to be a division between the loyalists and the traditionalists, with the traditionalists being those in favor of maintaining the status quo of the fisher folk of Saltmarsh, and the loyalists being loyal to the crown and siding with the dwarves in the mining operation. You can definitely get a palpable sense of the tension. It almost becomes harder to hear what individuals are saying as you get closer. But it's very clear that this situation with only 20 guards and around 100 people, either the crowd's going to turn on each other or they're going to turn on the guards if somebody doesn't do something quick. So
Talmud is going to approach the edge of the crowd, right where the rife kind of seems to be happening, and he's just going to start kind of like, gently but firmly, kind of, pardon me, kind of moving his way directly through the two halves of them. Excuse me, coming through. Move to the side, please.
Make me I'm going to say either a persuasion or intimidation, depending on how aggressive you are.
Could Fig help as well? He's a little bigger, and so he can...
Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay,
so do that. Roll that with advantage.
Excellent. 17 total.
You find that those closest to you, you are met with equal parts of disgust and annoyance, as well as some of the dwarves and those siding with the dwarves looking at you almost with a sense of, okay, not only somebody that's one of us, but whoa, this individual seems to really stand out. But you may or may not notice that they're also not lingering too long on you, but also the somewhat shiny metal man that is immediately behind you. What about Griveth, Cantriel, and Thorgarn? Are you following in this new wake, or are you taking a different tactic?
I would just follow up right behind Fig, and maybe give a silent glower if somebody decides to speak up or start to get a little uppity. Not going to say anything.
Another armed and armored dwarf, also standing out somewhat with the mohawk. What about Griveth?
I'm keeping up with the group, and I'm mostly just trying to look out for people who might be trouble, and either lunge to attack or cause trouble.
All right, and Cantriel, what's your tact?
Is there with the layout, is the jail like its own separate building? Is it attached to other buildings? What's that set up as?
It looks to be the jail looks as though it is a structure that you see the barred windows, but it has more to it. It almost looks like it's connected to a barracks of sorts. So it may be both the jail and the barracks for the town guard.
Okay, and then besides everyone sort of standing in the square at each other type of thing, what's on the periphery? Like what's around the crowd itself?
Nothing. It's a hilltop, so there's really not a whole lot around this area. It's pretty open, actually.
Okay. I think she'd start skirting around the perimeter just to keep an eye on what's happening on the edges of things,
All right.
but also see what's going on center-wise.
Which way are you going to go? To the left or to the right?
Which way is closest to where the barred windows are?
The right side has the main jailhouse building that has the barred windows.
Okay, then heading towards the right then.
All right, so you're going around to the right side. Just bringing up my... Yeah, there's not much in the way. There's a little bit of a crossroads to the north of here. That the part of the crossroads that heads to the east. This map throws me off because north is left. The part that heads to the east, and that's the side that kind of flanks the barracks area, does appear that there's a farmstead and farmland to the east back there. And it even looks like the farm may serve the barracks and jailhouse, but there's no trees or anything around this area. Everybody give me a perception check as you're moving through or around the crowd.
7.
Thorgarn, you see Fig's backside pretty much as you're moving through the crowd.
15.
21.
All right.
9.
12.
Okay. Thorgarn, Talmud, and Fig. Once you've kind of gotten into this, you're almost just focused on moving straight through the crowd, attempting to get to the front, presumably where Eleander, Firebrand, and the guards are. Griveth and Cantriel. So Griveth, you were following behind Thorgarn and just looking, kind of keeping an eye out. And next to Fig, you probably cut the most impressive figure moving through here, armored with shield, looking like a knight, standing out. You find that you are actually catching cautious. People are staying, they're kind of giving you a berth as you move through. But the people that tend to be more towards the left side seem to be a lot of the fisher folk. And they're giving you kind of a stink eye. But they're not saying or doing anything. They almost quiet down a little bit as you move through. You seem to represent some sort of authority and have a little bit of a regal air about you. Cantriel, you're moving around the right side, skirting around the edge, and you do see that it is primarily a mix of dwarves and middle-class folk. And they seem to be the group that is very strongly in favor of trying to get the prisoners and the dwarves freed. But you also notice that the dwarves themselves seem the ones that are the most worked up, that are contributing quite heavily to the tension in this situation. After a moment, I'm going to say, Cantriel, that you are the first one to kind of reach the guards because you're not moving through the crowd. You're moving a little more freely. And as you kind of move along the flank, there's a couple of guards standing on the side. They've sort of, their line has sort of curled a little bit to contain this crowd. And the guard on the side just kind of nervously looks over at you. Hold up there, miss. Where are you going? What are you doing?
Well, I heard that there's people inside who are being held and that type of thing, and I thought I'd take a look.
Yeah, stand in line with everybody else. Seems everybody's here for that.
They're all here for the people in the jail.
They're all here because of them.
Whatever for?
And he's kind of doing this thing where he's looking at you and trying to look back at the crowd. Most of this lot wants to see them freed. The rest of them want to see them hang. What's your business here?
I just wanted to see what it was looking like. That's all, because I heard there was a, kerfuffle of some sort.
Kerfuffle. It's a real shit show.
Oh, good. You swear. That's nice to hear.
Stand back.
Why? What are you going to do?
Well, don't make me have to show you what I'm going to do. And he sort of clutches at his spear and just sort of angles it down a little bit in your direction.
Are you sure you know how to handle that?
Are you questioning my ability as a town guard?
Now I'm questioning why there's a spear in my face.
If I wanted it in your face, I would put it in your face.
I was actually going to see if you needed help sort of dispersing the riffraff, but clearly you have everything under
By
control.
what authority are you here to offer assistance?
Bard! I'm very good at distracting people.
All right, roll me a persuasion check.
Okay.
Meanwhile, the rest of you have kind of cut through the crowd,
Oh, there it is.
and Thorgarn, or Talmud rather, you find yourself immediately face to face with a couple of the guards, and they have their spears crossed as they're preventing any further movement. But you now stand about maybe 6 feet away from the raised platform and only under firebrand.
I used my famous dice. It gave me a 20.
Nice.
So that's going to be a total of, you said persuasion?
Yes.
26.
All right. Thank you to KY Hawkeye for both the resubscription and the 400 bits, which, because of my memory, there is also there was a 100 bit donation during last stream that totals 500 bits now. So you guys are at 108 domain dice. Cantriel, something about the way you say this, because Bard. And there seems to be just this air of authority about you. He just seems to kind of relax a little bit, and he's like, "I'm sorry, miss. It's been all tense all morning. You're gonna want to talk to Captain Firebrand. If you're here to offer assistance, he's gonna be the one to talk to. Carefully move around behind me towards the platform." And he eases up and allows you to pass. Talmud, what are you doing, dwarf? Stay in line.
Well, look, I'm not here to join this riffraff. Your captain, he's a Firebrand. That's his name?
What about it?
We were sent to talk to him. We need to get through. Our people are inside.
Your people?
Aye.
You hear a voice coming from behind the guard, and you can see him as he towers so much higher from his platform. Did you say those were your people inside, dwarf?
Is this the Captain Firebrand?
This is Captain Firebrand.
Yeah. So he looks up and kind of, "Oh, hello, Captain." He's going to try to kind of push the spears like away from pointing at him to get a little bit closer, like straight up to their shields if he can. Yes, they are our people, and if at all possible, we would like to try to clear up this mess so that we can get them back.
Let him through. And the spears ease up as they allow you to pass through.
Thank you. And as he's kind of passing through, he's, "You want to hold this a little higher. There you go." Kind of pass that soldier on the arm as he kind of passes him.
As the four of you move through this line of guards towards the platform, you see that Cantriel is already sidled up alongside the platform. Captain Firebrand kind of looks down and sort of, you with them?
Usually, yes. Why is that good or bad?
That depends. I don't know who any of you are or why you're here, but you picked a hell of a time
Well,
to come in.
we came here to see if we could figure out what exactly is going on with the people inside that are under your your
Peg leg.
no,
Oh, no.
your care.
Depending on your perspective is going to depend on whether or not you view them as being under duress or under my care. Whatever the case, they are incarcerated on certain charges. We can talk more about that once things get settled down here. Now, I'm not an idiot. I'm not an idiot. I can look around at you guys, or you lot, and see that you're not any ordinary folk. You got that look of, I don't know if you're mercenaries or adventurers or what you are.
Look, is there anything that we can do to help with dispersing this crowd?
That's exactly what I was about to tell you. If you can help calm this situation down without exacerbating it, then we can have a conversation. Until then, I'm a little busy at the moment. So, what Firebrand would like you to do is to assist in calming the crowd. This is going to be a skill challenge. If you choose to participate, there will be a certain number of successes you will need before you reach a certain number of failures. I will leave it entirely up to the 5 of you to determine how you want to address this crowd, what tactics you want to use. But know that during this skill challenge, a critical success will equal 2 successes towards the skill challenge, but a critical failure will equal 2 failures. You will need to get in this social skill challenge, you will need 6 successes before you reach 3 failures to succeed. Firebrand looks at all of you and says, look, they've been building up their tension all morning. All I need is to get them called down, and if we can get them to disperse and acting like the civilized adults they're supposed to be, then we can have room to talk. But I do not want anything escalating into violence. Just know that with the individuals that are in the cells, I've got plenty of room in my jail if I need to put any or all of you there as well. And he's looking at the 5 of you. And with that, through whatever means you would like to, you have the option to work together or individually. And I'm not going to have us roll for initiative or anything like that, but for every action there is an equal or opposite reaction. Just know that. So how would you like to proceed? And we can do this, it's obviously we're going to roll into a little bit of mechanics and dice play, but role play this stuff through because that's going to have an influence as well.
So Cantriel, Griveth, would you want to try and engage the and I'll just point towards the more human side and allow Talmud and I to address the dwarves?
Well, considering my track record with the dwarven population, probably would be best that I was not the one speaking directly to them. Yeah.
Right.
All right, so we'll focus on the taller folk, and you focus on the shorter folk.
What can I do? How can I help?
I've been thinking about that one. I don't know if a distraction is going to help or hinder is the problem.
I could show them my book. Or my collection.
No, I think that's not exactly everyone's cup of tea. Not everyone wants to see the skulls and the bones. They're fascinating, don't get me wrong. They're lovely, they're wonderful, but that might cause a little trip into the cells that we weren't expecting.
Talmud looks at everybody and he says, well, without violence being in an option, I'm out of ideas.
Well, it's a good thing that the family line, actually gave me some brains that they didn't give you. What do the dwarves like to do? They like to drink, they like to sing, they like to tell tales. So why don't we get their attention, engage them in, dwarven drinking song, and try to see if we can, escort them down to the tavern.
Well, there you go.
All right, so how would you like to proceed?
So I'm gonna, step up there and try to, see if I can just get the dwarves' attention, and I'm solely gonna speak Dwarven. See if maybe hearing their native tongue, in not Dwarven lands, see if that winds up sparking any kind of interest there.
Okay, so what are you going to say to them?
Greetings, my brethren. We're gonna get this all sorted out. We got line in with the captain, and we're gonna assure that our kinfolk are gonna come in from the shore. That these people are gonna get put away, or set free. Nothing to worry about. But in order for all of this to happen, this crowd needs to disperse. So I figured we could just easily walk away. We'll head on down to the tavern and sing some songs and have a good time.
I would like a Talmud. Are you doing anything to assist with this, or are you letting Thorgarn take this completely?
Talmud kind of grumbles a little, and he offers up, kind of barely above the noise, like the din of the crowd. The Dawnbringers will pay for it. I've got it, Thorgarn.
Okay, so I would like Thorgarn a performance or persuasion roll at advantage.
That'd be a 14.
So as you say this, kind of addressing this side, are you moving into the crowd as you're doing this? Kind of moving among them, or
I had come up to them, and I was gonna kind of gauge the reaction to my presence and to my words, and if they seemed interested, my plan was to fully get in with them and literally take them away from this spot. Obviously I can't lead if they're not following, so it's kind of gonna hinge.
As you address the crowd and move in, and you begin offering drinks, and especially as Talmud offers to pay, you do see amongst the crowd the dwarves. Did he say? And some of them in Dwarvish, some of them in Common. Wait, did he say he was going to buy us drinks? Right, they want us all to get together at the tavern and have drinks. Oh, I like to drink. I like it when other people pay. But you also hear amongst the crowd, on that side of the crowd, I don't understand what they said. Why are they talking to just the dwarves? Not everybody speaks Dwarvish. And
did dwarves say that they don't
no,
speak Dwarven? Okay.
There's humans in amongst the dwarves.
Oh, okay.
Some of the middle class people. It's not all dwarves. It's a mixture of humans and dwarves. So some of the humans are a little put off that you're speaking in Dwarvish. Overall, though, you've caught the attention of the dwarves, but you do hear a few people starting to say, well, we don't know how many of our dwarven brothers and sisters are held illegally on that ship. This is going to count as a success. You've successfully enticed them with the idea of proffered drink. though there still seems to be a bit of swaying in the crowd that will need to be done. Cantriel, Griveth, and Fig. What are the group of you or each of you individually going to attempt to do?
Cantriel, sing them a song.
I don't think singing a song is going to solve the problem here right now. Now, this side is more of the traditionalists, right?
The side with the dwarves is... Or wait, you will move to the other side with the tall folk, so to speak?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is mostly fisher folk. This is definitely the traditionalists.
Okay.
As you move that way, you begin to hear a lot of the crowd that's saying things like, "We don't need diseased dwarves moving in and threatening our health. It's enough of a challenge with their mining operation challenging our fishing businesses. We don't need slavery in this area. Slavery's always been illegal. We don't need that crew bringing slaves of any kind." This seems to be the theme of a lot of what you're hearing.
Sounds like we need more of a full-blown distraction, and these are people who obviously are going to be caring about their boats and their ships for their livelihood. Maybe Fig and I can kind of drum up a incoming storm. Head back, check out their boats, make sure everything's all right. Griveth, you could run the front line trying to distract while Fig and I do our thing. They seem to like you.
So, what, how are Fig and Cantriel going to spread this information about a coming storm?
Oh, Cantriel's thinking she could sneak off around the corner and do her thunder wave for thunder.
Oh.
You know, make it thunder, and then if Fig has any flashy magic, kind of get the flickering sky going.
Could do prestidigitation to create some sea breeze wind.
Does prestidigitation do that? I thought that was thaumaturgy.
No, prestidigitation. You can do a puff of wind.
Ah, yes, it's very...
I mean,
very
for
subtle.
that, couldn't I give Fig the ocean's breath? A pump of the bellows.
You could.
I mean, I also have Thunderstep that we could.
Oh, hold on. If you have Thunderstep, I do have that wind, warding wind. So we could go and, like, you know, so we're not in front of everyone seeing this, but we could do the whole, like, you know, I start kicking the wind up a little bit and then the thunder gets going and Griffith can be like, you know, there's a storm coming through. Best head back to batten down the hatches.
Okay, so you guys are going to try to convince the crowd that a storm's a-blowing in through the use of magic.
Yeah, just not in front of them.
All right. I'm not going to make you roll to see if you can... I feel like you guys are smart enough to not stand in the crowd of people and say, "Let's make these people believe there's a storm."
Because I had this one for up to 10 minutes.
Right. So, I'm going to need from both of you first a stealth check.
Okay.
To see if you can sneak without being noticed.
All right, that's for me. It's a 17.
I'll try to distract the crowd by like, good people, good people.
I need to use a domain dice. I got a 2. Got a 2. Okay, that's a 16.
All right, so you guys are at... All right. Yeah, so both of you are able to make your way around to the side without arousing any suspicion. Griveth, as they're preparing to put on this show, what are you doing to distract the crowd?
I am, you know, standing there as regally as I can and booming my voice as loud as I can saying, good people, I am an emissary of Eldath, the goddess of peace, and I am here to help with this situation. The goddess herself has given me, Griveth, the powers to examine these prisoners and heal them of their afflictions. So there is nothing to worry about. Go back to your homes.
All right, Griveth, I would like a let's do a persuasion check from you.
Okay.
Cantriel and Fig, as you cast your spells. Fig, what are you using to generate the thunder? Are you using Thunder Step?
Yeah.
Where are you stepping to?
Way up.
Did you just say away? Away. Are you just randomly stepping away?
No, I meant like away from the crowd, like maybe towards the farm.
Okay. And I think you can move up to a distance, reappearing. I can't remember how far it is for that one.
10 feet. Oh no, sorry. I go
Thunderstep's more than 10
90
feet.
feet.
Okay.
I can go back.
You can go
90.
up to 90 feet. You don't have to go the full 90.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Cantriel, you're bringing up warding wind, so you're causing a strong wind, about a 20-mile-an-hour wind to pick up.
Yep.
So I'm going to need each of you, because you're each casting a spell, to make a performance check. And yeah, that'll suffice.
At 14.
I got a 13.
And the wind begins picking up. People begin getting a bit tousled, particularly those closest to that side. Hair begins to whip up. You see a few people looking around, casting about, looking. Oh, and you start to hear, Griveth in particular, you start to hear, as people are looking around, looking up at the sky. I didn't think there was anything in the forecast. I thought for sure we were going to have good skies. The skies do look good. But I hear thunder and the wind's picking up. Overall, the traditionalists do seem to begin to worry a little bit. You keep seeing wary glances up at the sky. I'm going to consider this a success. But despite these successes, the crowds are still pressing in on one another. And in fact, you can begin to hear some of the dwarves saying, explaining to those that didn't speak Dwarvish, these two dwarves over here said that they were going to buy us all drinks. Yeah, good. We're going to need a drink after we kick their asses. And you start to hear a lot of that kind of stuff. And you do hear a few people saying stuff about, I'm getting a little bit worried about my boat. I still didn't secure all my gear. We're going to have to wrap things up here pretty quick, so you guys are going to need to do more to quell this crowd. You have 2 successes so far. Cantriel, are you keeping your wind up for the duration?
Yeah, to kind of start convincing that maybe something's rolling in.
Okay.
Is there a way to flavor sleep?
You're going to have to explain that a little bit more.
It's not so much that I'd be looking to make them actually fall asleep, but more to make them like a little less rambunctious, like sort of make them feel worn down.
So you kind of want to try to undercast sleep to make it a
Groggy.
to make them more groggy.
Yeah. At least
I
the
cast
ones, the
Benadryl.
ones we're getting, especially the ones we're getting like the most agitated.
Or maybe like cast at full strength, but it's like more people, so it's not really putting them to sleep. It's just
Yeah. Like if I say there's a particular group that's getting really like with each other, like kind of just da-da.
So
This is how my brain's working.
I really like it. I really like what you're trying to do, and I feel like as an arcane caster utilizing this spell, you would have a bit of control over it. However, you're trying to use this spell in a way that it's not exactly intended. So I'm going to, because I think it requires a saving throw. Or no, you just
HP based.
I have to roll my
it's HP based. Okay.
Yeah.
So I am going to require you to make a essentially like a we're going to basically flavor this as it's an arcana check using your spellcasting modifier. But the DC is going to be a little bit higher. I'm envisioning this like you're not hitting the crowd with a full sleep, but you're kind of trying to spread sleep and drowsiness. You're almost trying to use sleep like a calm emotion spell is what you're trying to do here.
pretty much.
So the DC is going to be a little higher
Okay.
to see if it's going to work.
So put in my Arcana and my proficiency?
Yep.
Okay, so that's going to be 12 right off the bat. And we're going to add to that, what is that? That's a 14. So 26.
Okay. So what I need you to do is roll your 5d8.
5d8. Hold on. There's a 1, there's a 2. There's maybe a couple of rolls here. All right. Give me 2 rolls because I only have 3. No, hold on. There's a 4th. Still 2 rolls because I only have 4. So that is 14. 14 plus 8, so that's 22, right? Plus.
Yep.
Ooh, stop. It's 27 total.
27 total. As you cast the spell, you first of all you notice that as you're attempting to work this magic in a way it's not intended, it's almost like you're simultaneously trying to throw this blanket of sleep over the crowd while maintaining it just at the edge of their awareness and consciousness. You find it to be quite a struggle. And you sense that this is something that you're definitely straining the weave of magic in a way it's not intended to be used. You do notice a bit of success in that in amongst the crowd you see some people that are like, yeah, I don't know, I'm kind of worried about this storm. You need to, let's hang him. So you see some yawns spreading around and people looking a little sleepy. But you're also realizing that once this kind of you successfully release from the effort that it took to cast this, that this kind of a spell you don't want to try misusing the magic in this way. Magic already has the potential for a cost, and you feel that you get a sense that if you try doing too much of this kind of thing, it could start to take and would probably manifest in forms of exhaustion. And what else you don't know. But you do manage to calm the crowd down a bit. It's noticeably quieter. That is another success. You're at 3 successes total. What would the rest of you like to do?
What about my noble speech?
Oh, yes. What did you end up rolling on that?
I got a 20.
you notice that in addition to gaining their attention, you notice that weirdly a lot of them seem very tired as they're talking to you. The crowd does seem to die down a bit in volume, and they're listening to you. And when you say Eldath, when you speak of Eldath, quite a few people in the crowd seem to be whisper acknowledgement, like they know Eldath, and some of them make a sign of Eldath, which is just simply a cascading, representing the cascading waterfall. And you definitely gain a bit of their awareness, and we will count that as a success as well. I would like Griveth, because Fig and Cantriel are around the corner doing magical sneaks. Griveth, give me a perception check. Thorgarn and Talmud, what are you doing on your side?
So, seeing that the crowd is not, completely joined in, my lack of perception to notice the fact that there were humans there, my whole idea of speaking Dwarven was, well, look, I'm going to get the dwarves. The humans over there are causing problems, so I don't need to talk to them, but apparently there are humans on our side. So I will say a quick prayer for guidance to Moradin, and I will tell them, switch to common, tell the tale of, Captain Dervish, why we're here, how it's going to lift up the, the community for all, and, again, try to assuage them, offer an apology for, to the humans who, or to those who don't, speak the Dwarven tongue, and to, re-encourage, let's all go down to the tavern and have a drink.
All right. This is going to be your choice, though I don't know in your case if it makes too much of a distance, but it's going to be either performance or persuasion. I have, this is as an aside while you're rolling, I have a rule that if chat nominates somebody for inspiration, that I award inspiration, because I am terrible at remembering, particularly when you have 108 domain dice. But Cantriel has been nominated to receive inspiration for the clever use of the sleep spell, and it has been seconded and is therefore motion carried. Cantriel, you have a point of inspiration.
So I will make this be performance.
Okay.
Not that it really matters, because I'm not proficient in performance or persuasion. So that is a 14.
Generally, throughout the crowd, they seem actually very receptive to what you're saying about Dervish, as most of the people on this side of the argument are in favor of freeing Dervish and his crew. You do hear a few people that are saying things like, oh yeah, I've known Dervish when he comes through town, and he's always eager to help out when he can, and he's definitely, there's no way he would be involved in slavery. And then you equally seem to gain even more people acknowledging and paying attention to you and your words than the other side of the argument, when you begin talking of buying drinks for everybody. So that is another success. Griveth, what did you get on your perception check?
I am hot tonight. I got a 22.
As you are talking, Griveth, and the crowd seems to have died down a bit, and quite a few of them on this side are paying attention to you and your words, you also notice that there are two individuals that are moving they seem to be shifting through the crowd a little bit more than others. Everybody else, for the most part, seems to have found their spot, and occasionally, when you first showed up, they were sort of swelling forward and being pushed back by the guards. You notice that these two individuals keep shifting to different parts of the crowd, and they'll sort of lean in towards somebody and they'll mutter something, and then they'll kind of lean back and they'll say, "We want a public trial. We want to hang them." And when the people around them seem to start to die down, they'll move towards somebody else. And there seems to be two human individuals on that side that seem to be trying to keep inciting the crowd. You currently have 5 successes and no failures. What would you like to do next? The full 10 minutes hasn't gone by yet, so if you're still holding it up, Cantriel, the wind's still blowing. There was a single crack of thunder, unless Fig was attempting to maintain that.
Can I toss some inspiration Griveth's way? To help him out with his public speaking?
A bardic inspiration type?
Yeah. Or is that... I wasn't sure that was something we put into the checks.
It's something that you can do. You can use it in this sense, but keep in mind you are around the corner trying to maintain a magical ruse.
Yeah, never mind.
And would draw attention to yourself.
That won't work.
You need one more success to fully win this crowd over. Any one of you can do a thing, or currently there's Griveth on his own, the 2 dwarves working together, and Cantriel and Fig working together. Which also doesn't mean that the 2 pairs, one of you couldn't do something also. You do get the sense that you've mostly won this crowd over in your respective areas. There's less pushing against the guards, but you don't quite have them.
When I see these 2 people working against us in the crowd, I call them out, and I say, "Let's hear your grievances. Don't whisper them, speak them to the front. Let us hear them."
Okay. Make a either persuasion or intimidation. You're muted.
I'm going to use a domain die.
All right.
And that is a 15.
All right. You see some of the crowd actually sort of starts looking around, not sure. And for a moment, the other 2, the 2 that were kind of trying to cause trouble, they start looking around as well. And then they realize that there are some people standing immediately around them looking right at them as you have signaled them out. And the one of them just says, "We know he's a slaver, and he brought diseased dwarves into the port, and should be punished for that, right? Come on!" And the other one sort of says, "Slavery, it's the worst kind of crime. We can't just let them get off on this." And I'm going to see. Oh, wow. Single digits on both of them. Neither one of them is holding up. It's almost like they're not convinced themselves. And they seem to sort of go, like, "We could... screw it." And they just sort of quiet down. And you notice that the crowd has noticeably calmed down and is no longer pushing against any of you or against the guards. There's actually a bit of space. some of the traditionalists seem to be looking around. They're like, I kind of want to get down to the docks. I need to check and make sure everything's good. See if we can get a sense of how bad the storm is. Yeah, I'm getting kind of worried about that too. And some of the loyalists are talking. Yeah, we need to get down there to the Wicker Goat and make sure they're open and they're serving the good stuff. We'll be looking for you, dwarves. And we're going to hold you to that. We don't forget. A couple of them rib you in the side, Thorgarn. You can't exactly hide in the crowd. And one of them sort of rubs the top of your mohawk. And the crowd begins to disperse, much to the relief of the guards and Captain Firebrand. You managed to pull that off. 6 successes and 0 failures. You skirted the DCs a couple of times. I used an escalating DC on that, and I made a couple adjustments, but your rolls more than once were exactly what you needed. In that case,
what was the sleep one? Just wondering.
The sleep one, because I don't remember what you rolled on that one. I want to say it was a 14. Or no, no. For the 26,
yeah.
The DC, I had bumped it up to an 18 on that one. I was running between a 12 and a 14 for the first part, and it was going to be an 18 for that. And you definitely, once you had a 20 plus, I knew you were good. So
the two guys who looked like they were causing the ruckus or contributing to it, as I was talking to my side, did I see any of that when Griffith called them out? I don't know how much was visible from both sides.
Honestly, I'm going to say that you probably, because of the sheer number of people and that you had sort of moved into the crowd, being a dwarf, there would have been too many people blocking your line of sight to see them specifically.
No problems. As people are leaving, I'll totally be like I'll find out, like, do they want to go drinking now or they want to go drinking later?
A few of them, you get the general impression that a lot of the dwarves themselves that were here just got off of shift in the mines, and plan to spend quite a bit of time at the Wicker Goat before they get some rest. So, you've got some time before they would expect you there. There doesn't seem to be a come along right now vibe.
All right, great.
It takes a few minutes, but eventually the crowd, it only takes a few minutes. It's one of those things where 1 minute you're completely surrounded by people, and if you've ever worked in like a factory or seen people in a factory, as soon as the time clock hits the hour, within 3 minutes, it's like nobody was there. And that's about what this is. This crowd just sort of, they move in two distinct groups. The traditionalists and the loyalists keep their distance from one another. But before long, you find yourself alone, the 5 of you, with Captain Firebrand. He's issuing some orders to some of the guards, telling them to, a handful of them are moving back in to positions. The rest of them have that look of they were probably off duty and got called on duty to deal with this situation and begin heading off to the left side. Cantriel and Fig, you would see this group. They maybe give you a little bit of a sideways look as you're heading around the side of the building, and you pass them and they're just kind of like, okay. And in a few moments, Captain Firebrand, with just a couple guards, is standing there and says, well, that went a lot better than I would have thought it could have gone. Let's go inside to my office and we're going to talk. And that is where we're going to take a break, as I'm just now realizing it's about 10 till. So we're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break. We're going to run a slightly outdated promo that we've been running for quite a while. I just realized that it's like, I think it's advertising the Forge of Fury. Season 2 of this campaign is one of the things advertised. But we'll be getting that updated soon. Stick around. Thank you to everybody who's contributed to either following the channel, subscriptions, donations, resubscriptions, whatever it may be, or just being here. I love seeing all the activity going on in the chat. Friends and some new faces in there. So stick around. We will be back in just a few minutes. Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is The Intermission. Mini Terrain Domain, or MTD, is a channel dedicated to the love of and participation in the world of tabletop role-playing games. Whether we're designing encounters or miniature terrain, building worlds or dice towers, or just playing games, everything we do here is because we love this amazing hobby. That is why the mission statement of Mini Terrain Domain is simply imagine, build, play. If you like to watch live play or actual play D&D games, you can do so at twitch.tv/Mini Terrain Domain 3 days a week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. On Sundays, you can join us for Cult of Personality, a long-running campaign set in the Tomb of Annihilation adventure setting. On Mondays, you can join us for All That Glitters, a Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign guaranteed to be epic proportions. And every Thursday night, you can join us for Dawnbringers, the Forge of Fury. This is a series of mini campaigns going across the gamut of several well-known modules. Season 1, which is available on youtube.com/Mini Terrain Domain, took place in the Sunless Citadel, and Season 2 is currently taking place in the Forge of Fury. If you can't join us in the chat for our live shows, that's okay. You can usually catch the roleplay, or rather the replay, on YouTube just 2 days later. If you're a fan of what we do here and you'd like to support what we do, there are a variety of ways you can do this. First, simply follow the Twitch channel or hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Next, make sure you follow all of the participants of each game or show on their various social media platforms. To do this, if you're watching live with us on Twitch, you can simply type an exclamation point and that person's name into the Twitch chat, or on YouTube, you can look down below the information bar and all of their links can be found there. Finally, if you would like to provide monetary support, which flows right back into the production of the channel so we can continue making great content, you can join the growing list of patrons on Patreon. Additionally, you can also use Ko-Fi or Coffee to buy a coffee or two. I like coffee. But the absolute best way to support the channel is to follow and subscribe on Twitch and YouTube and join us in the chat. If you have an Amazon Prime account and you link it to your Twitch account, you can subscribe to one channel per month absolutely free. No matter what you decide to do, we are just happy to have you here. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more great content in just a few moments. Remember, metadata!
Hi everyone, I'm V, and I have the YouTube channel, The Crafting Muse. Please be sure to go over there and check it out if you too would like to learn how to make some tabletop terrain, paint miniatures, as well as some game accessories. I'm always happy to have new subscribers over there.
Learn the ways of the Game Master, the Dungeon Master, and delve into the minds of the players. If you're looking for adventure, excitement, thrills, and a dice-rolling good time, grab the modules each month and play the campaign with your gaming group with quest givers DM Scotty and DMG. They're taking you on an epic journey through the role-playing experience every Friday. You're sure to get hooked on adventure.
And we really liked the idea of creating adventures together, so we thought that'd be a lot of fun to share with you guys.
I didn't think this kind of stuff would come out of my brain. We are quest givers and I'll see you in the next video.
Adventure Mixtape, a music and adventure anthology, is a collection of 4 adventures for the 5th edition of the world's most popular role-playing game. The adventures are setting neutral and meant to be seamlessly dropped into any world that has a large seaside city and a jungle environment. With a bit of adaptation, the environments could be changed to suit any group. In Treaty of the Tiger King by Kelsey Dion of the Arcane Library, a distant king arrives at the city to negotiate the peaceful end of a war, but the mercenary guild has other insidious plans for him. Will the players be able to thwart assassination attempts against King Rami and help him negotiate circles of social intrigue in order to finally end the war? In Madness of the Majestic Menagerie by Ken Brees of Burling's Beard, the famous Majestic Menagerie draws hordes of visitors to the metropolis and cultural hub known since time immemorial as Splendor by the Sea. But now the gates of the famous zoo have been shut, and the grand opening of the new section has been jeopardized by a spate of mysterious accidents and, it's whispered, grievous injuries due to uncontrollable creatures. Mr. Majestic seeks to hire investigators and troubleshooters who can keep a low profile to iron out any problems before the impending grand opening becomes a complete disaster. Do you have what it takes to uncover what's driving the madness that's befallen the Majestic Menagerie? In The Infernal Collection by Sharang Biswas, when an influential fashion designer is found dead days before a major fashion show, heroes are called in to solve the mystery, prevent any further destruction, and help the fashion house prepare for the show. Gorillas in Their Midst by Jacob W. Norman of Mini Terrain Domain is a pulp action adventure wrought with perilous challenges and a high possibility of death. But what is adventure without danger? Of course, there is the lure of vast piles of unclaimed treasure and the accompanying fame that await those intrepid adventurers who would defy the odds and plunge into the heart of darkness. In this adventure, the characters will face raging river rapids, wicked waterfalls, poisonous plants, venomous vines, sinking sands, treacherous traps, and the vicious jungle demon itself, Awakane Gori. Grab your satchels, fedoras, and bullwhips. Adventure awaits. The Adventure Mixtape also comes with 4 original songs inspired by and written for the heroic adventures herein. This collection of music and story is something unique. We had no better word for it than mixtape. If you ever received a cassette, CD, or digital playlist curated to take you on a memorable journey, then you'll recognize what you find inside this volume. Also included in the Adventure Mixtape, courtesy of Kelsey Dion of the Arcane Library, are exclusive combat cards. Special cards that contain all of the items, monsters, and spellcasters found within these adventures to make running your adventure all the more easier. Adventure Mixtape, a music and adventure anthology, is available exclusively on drivethrurpg.com.
Griffith, once home to the most wondrous kingdom the world had ever known, blasted to nothing in just a fortnight. It is here that the fiends of hell walk among us. It is here where all things die. Welcome to Griffith. Demon invaders roam the landscape and have conquered all. The world is a ravaged and wrathful wasteland, where the old world lies buried beneath the blood and sand with its gods and its secrets. Water is fought over with blood and steel. Compatible with the 5th edition of the world's oldest fantasy role-playing game, this book contains all new character creation options, including all of the familiar classes with new aspects befitting the ravaged wastelands of Griffith, along with new backgrounds, subclasses, spells, feats, and so much more. New races will allow you to play as the Cursed Ash Elves, the Forsaken Humans, the Primordial Incarno, the Proud Orcs, the Reptilian Suri, or the Infernal-Blooded Tieflings. New game mechanics such as blood, grit, and effort give your games an intense focus on lethality and survival. Numerous role tables full of ideas to help bring your games to life. Featuring incredible thematic art by Brandish Gilhelm of Broodhammer Games, as well as Lloyd Collins. The people of Griffith are not heroes. In Griffith it is courage just to survive. Will you rise to face the tide of demons, or will you succumb to the hostile elements? Available now on DriveThruRPG.com.
And we're back. And as a brief continuation of the break time promotional, we're going to give Scotty the floor for just a moment to tell you about something awesome that Quest Givers has going on.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, this is my, we have a Kickstarter going on. It's my first Kickstarter with Quest Givers with Gareth. And we have a whole 12 module campaign with 4 mini quests. So it'll be a book. Lots of material there. And it's free shipping in the US. And actually, unlike most Kickstarters, if you pledge at least $1, there you actually get a reward for your $1. So we actually have a $1 pledge level. So check it out. I'd really appreciate it at the Kickstarter for North Road campaign for Quest Givers. If someone could post that in the chat, that'd be great.
Actually, I think we set up a chat command for exclamation point Quest.
Yes.
Yep. And there is the link directly to the Kickstarter.
I've backed it to get my copy. You should as well.
Thank you, Ted.
It's very exciting. We've run as a one-shot, one of the adventures from the North Road right here on the channel as a fill-in during one of the seasons. And I really enjoy how those adventures are set up. They're truly system agnostic, and they're presented in a way that makes it very easy for low prep or heavy prep GMs to be able to use it. So we are going to continue where we left off at the break. You have dispersed the riot, stopped the riot, dispersed the crowd with as the chat has been saying, gusts of joy, or by casting mass ambien, pushing the limits of what the weave is intended to be used for. But you were successful, Cantriel, in doing that. Captain Eleander Firebrand, the captain of the Town Watch, has bid you to follow him into the jail to talk. We cut to inside the building where you're in sort of a general area. There's a couple of desks and a large meeting table, a heavy oak meeting table in the middle, at which he moves across the room, and you hear that every other step, that dunk, dunk, dunk of his wooden peg leg. And he moves to a seat, and he sits down, relieved to be off of his feet. Please, have a seat. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the 5 of you call yourselves the Dawnbringers, is that right?
Aye.
Well, he
Indeed.
started it, and she'll point to Griveth.
Oh, yes.
I was made aware over a month ago that you'd be arriving here in Saltmarsh. Though I expected the circumstances to be a bit different. My understanding was that the 5 of you would be traveling with Captain Dervish, Manistrad Copperlocks, and the dwarves that were hired out of Blazingdell. Yet, when the Evangeline made her way into the bay, somebody was tipped off even ahead of my knowledge. The embargo was placed, and rumors began to spread of diseased dwarves and dervish running a slave trade, illegally bringing dwarves from afar. What I want to know is why the Dawnbringers weren't on the Evangeline like they were supposed to be.
I would hazard a guess, Captain, that he kind of points to his leg. You understand that sometimes things don't always go as planned.
Well, this is true, but you were traveling on a voyage across the sea in a ship with the destination being Saltmarsh.
And we were
I'm not understanding what didn't go as planned that involved you not being on that vessel. And
Well, it wasn't so much that we were supposed to arrive on that exact ship. We were supposed to arrive in Saltmarsh to help the people on that ship. The semantics never said we had to make sure we stayed on the ship the whole time. Something came up that we attended to.
the information that I received was that the 5 Dawnbringers would be traveling with the Dwarven contingent and Captain Dervish's crew on the Evangeline. And that was not the case. Now, I don't care about the semantics of whatever arrangements you made with Manistrad, the mining operation, or the folks in Blazingdale. What I care about is I've got a man and his crew, some of his crew, down in my jails that I am 99.9% sure is innocent. But the council still has to meet on this matter. But the public outcry is such that we had to take some sort of action. That puts me in a tough position. Now, I appreciate what all of you have done in coming here and quelling that riot out there. Things were about to get ugly. What I don't understand is how they managed to assemble so quickly. Nonetheless, I appreciate your help.
I saw a few men in the crowd trying to rabble-rouse. What's that about? Do you know those? We described the men to them. Do they know? Does he know of them or know of them?
There's enough people in Saltmarsh that I can't know every single person, especially with people coming and going. But it's not surprising. We have a few troublemakers that make their way in here. And ever since the mining operation moved into town, well, let's just say a lot of the folk that like to adhere to a more traditional way of doing things have put up a bit of an opposition. For the most part, I find that people deal all right with the dwarves and their mining operation. Most people think that that's not going to amount to much. There's a few people that are concerned that the dwarves are going to dig something up that's going to cause trouble, but quite frankly, beyond some lucrative veins of silver, I don't see a whole lot else coming out of those mines other than what they're mining. But I'm not aware of any particular troublemakers like you've described. Though I can keep my eyes out now that you've given me a fair description of them. So, my understanding is that the 5 of you were hired to sort of keep an eye on the mining operation and the dwarves, which then leads me to believe that a large part of what's happening right now falls under your purview as your problem. How do you intend to help get these dwarves off of this ship and into the job they were hired for, and get Captain Dervish and his crew out of the situation they're in?
Well, that's simple. Who's in the council?
Yes, exactly what I was going to say.
Well, the council's a bit of a mixed bag of folk.
Let's stop dancing around what we have in terms of loyalists and traditionalists. And how does our reputation precede us here?
For the most part, only myself and those on the council know who you are prior to your arrival.
Well, that's something. Because it could be argued that if we felt comfortable enough to leave a ship of people with Captain Dervish, chances are very high we wouldn't have left it were in slave hand trade mode.
See, there's the rub on that, though, ma'am.
Oh, don't ma'am me.
The rub here is that you left the ship for a period of time. That time is unaccounted for and does allow a significant amount of time for a captain to take on a cargo of slaves. That's what some people are arguing.
Right, the cargo we would need to inspect to see if it's changed then.
But you got this whole quarantine thing going on. And on top of that, I'm still stuck on this being our problem. I'm willing to do whatever is necessary to get this solved. But as you stated, our job was to look after the miners. Until they're here in town mining, they ain't miners yet. So how is that our problem?
Are these not some of your own kin from your own...
I don't know. I can't see them. Get the boats out of the way, get them into town, and we can take care of it.
Let us verify.
He puts both hands on the table, Thorgarn, and he actually comes up off the table a little bit. I'm going to recommend that you adjust your tone when talking to me, dwarf. I'm on your side here for the time being. But that can change real quick. You're already in the jail. Don't make me put you in a cell.
Oh, wait.
I apologize, sir. But you were just brushing this off. Well, I can't trust you guys because you didn't arrive on the contract.
All right, time out, everyone.
Hold on. Forgive my friend, but I have the perfect solution that everyone will be satisfied. These folk are God-fearing folk, correct?
Some of them.
Well, my goddess gives me special powers. And when my goddess shines through me, I can see if people are lying. They cannot lie in my presence. So if they come before me and I'm prepared, they will not be able to lie in my presence. You will see the power.
Well, I'm not going to claim to have a full understanding of the magic of which you speak. I don't doubt this to be true. Again, it's not me you need to convince. You seem to be forgetting that I have said that I am on your side. I believe that Dervish is innocent. I do not believe that there are slaves on that ship. But I haven't had a chance to even see what's on the ship. The embargo was not put there by me. It is actually the locals that have embargoed, preventing anybody to get to the ship or from the ship, with the overwhelming public opinion being that it is full of diseased slaves. Until the council meets to make a determination on what's going on here, this is how the situation stands. Now, you, sir, while it may be true that you have the ability to tell whether somebody is being honest or not, it's not me you have to convince. It falls to the council.
When does this council of yours meet?
I haven't had a chance to summon anybody from the council, but I can guarantee you some of the council members are already having conversations, and that in part worries me. Ida Oland is among one of the highest positions on the council and has a vested interest in the traditional point of view. She herself owns 3 of the largest fishing vessels coming out of Saltmarsh. Now, Gillen Primewater, he's another council member that, Well, he likes to let his fishermen his fisher folk do all the hard work. He likes the finer lifestyle. He's among the wealthiest folks here in town, and whoever you see that's the nicest dressed in town with the tallest of top hats, that's going to be Gillen Primewater.
So we want the pampered Pratt.
Well, that's just two of the council members. They tend to both lean towards the traditional point of view. Now you're in luck that one of the members of the council is loyal to the king's army, has served in many wars, and is a loyal companion to the dwarves, and just happens to be standing before you right now. Unfortunately, though she has a tenuous seat on the council, this other council member is currently, to the best of my knowledge, held in quarantine on the Evangeline, and that would be Manistrad Copperlocks.
Of course.
There is still one other individual, Anders Salmar. Anders is he's a bit on the young side, and his mother, Petra, passed away not too long ago, and he sort of inherited her seat on the council. He tends towards the traditionalist side of things. He tends toward the loyalist side of things, but he does hold a few traditional views. He's a bit of a wild card. So that's what we're going to be up against, and I can guarantee you do not have to worry about finding an audience with the council, because the council wants to talk to the five of you.
We just asked for the chance to state our case. Now, how can we help with the ship?
Talk to the council members.
Is there a healer, a capable healer, who can get rid of diseases the way that I know some of my companions can, but who serves the traditionalists?
Well, we've got medical professionals here. We've got a couple of barber surgeons on the Saltmarsh.
People who these traditionalist council members would trust the word of?
Well, I would think so. I mean, they've been cutting the hairs and pulling the teeth of the traditionalists since they were wee ones.
Well, surely if one of the council members is stuck on board the ship and not able to attend a meeting of said council members, but had the capability of doing so, they would want them there.
Well, see, that's the thing. Manistrad only has a seat on the council because she was appointed by the king, and the traditionalists are having a hard time adjusting to the king's extending his reach down this far. So
I see.
You may have a hard time explaining to Gillen and Ada.
I might ask a question. Are they lawful citizens?
As who lawful citizens?
The council members.
Of course they're lawful citizens.
Then shouldn't they, you can have as much trouble and quarrel, but if they accept the law and Manistrad has been appointed, she's a council member, end of story.
Clearly, dwarf, you have spent little to no time amidst governmental politics.
It is not my forte. No.
You seem to be approaching this problem with a fair head for logic and reason. And that is in and of itself a problem when it comes to government.
Who needs the convincing of this group? Who are the big fish?
Well, as I've said, Ada and Gillen are going to need some strong convincing. Anders is someone you're going to want to see where he stands on the matter. And you've got a fair idea trying to get if I'm understanding you correctly, you want to get a doctor, one the traditionalists understand, out to the ship to make an assessment. That could go a long ways. And I can tell you right now, I'm with you. And Manistrad, of course, is going to agree with us. But I think that's the key to the whole thing. If we can even prove that she's on that ship. There are many that don't even believe that she's on the ship, that she just cut bait and ran. So, that leaves Ada Oland and Gillen Primewater to convince and to figure out where Solomon stands. Excuse me, Saltmarsh stands. And at that sound, you hear the door slam open. And you hear a voice say, I can tell you exactly where I stand. You know without a shadow of a doubt that I abhor slavery. And a well-dressed young human man walks in to the room and looks at all of you and says, it appears I've come at the right time as my name's being bandied about as being on some kind of fringe. The name's Anders Salmore.
Greetings, sir. I will tell you that I abhor slavery as much as you yourself claim. And I can tell you that the dwarves on that ship are not slaves.
I'm inclined to believe you, dwarf. I've had some dealings with Captain Dervish, and one thing that I know about Captain Stark Dervish is, well, I know a few things about him. He's not above drinking and gambling, regardless of with who, though he's not good at either. He doesn't exactly have a strong head for strong business propositions. But if there's one thing that Captain Dervish hates above all other things, it's the idea of anyone being enslaved. I have no doubts that this is somebody is trying to put the blame on him. He's being made to be a scapegoat.
Yeah, I didn't see it myself, but my friend Griveth here, when the mob was gathered outside calling for this and calling for that, he says he saw two rabble-rousers trying to stir up the crowd. Griveth, you mind giving this fair sir a description? See if he might know him.
And
I give him the description also.
I can't say that I recognize these individuals by your description, but it does not surprise me. As I'm sure Captain Firebrand has told you, things have been a bit tenuous since the mining operation moved into town. I made haste up here for a reason. The council is looking to meet and meet soon, but they do not yet, and Ada and Gillen are strongly leaning on this stance. Until the council has had an opportunity to meet amongst themselves, they do not want you folk to sit in on the council meeting yet.
Well,
you aren't exactly trusted, given that you did not arrive as was foretold on board the vessel. This has created a problem. And you see Firebrand just sort of he's kind of leaning back in his chair and he just gives you this kind of, told you.
Now, my question is if a whole bunch of dwarves are being kept on a ship for quarantine, if we would have showed up on that ship, I would have reckoned that my cousin and I would still be on that ship because we're dwarves, and they're saying the dwarves are infected. So much so that even your councilwoman is stuck out there, or so the stories claim.
The way I see it, and the way it seems to have gone down by whoever it is that has orchestrated this situation, if the 5 of you, the so-called Dawnbringers, had actually been on board with Captain Dervish as anticipated, the ship would have made its way into port, and everything would have gone without incident. The fact that you were not there allowed whoever it was that orchestrated this seemed to have been lying in wait for such an opportunity. That's why it does not surprise me, sir, that you have identified, as you've said, rabble-rousers within the town. But the reason I made haste up here, besides to let Captain Firebrand know that the council needs to meet, is I think there's something that the 5 of you can do to help.
And what might that be?
Well, I own quite an extensive fleet of fishing boats in Saltmarsh. I own the largest stake in fishing boats in Saltmarsh. And I have a lot of sway with the traditionalists, but I also believe in progress. So I have a lot of sway with the loyalists. But I also have had the fortune, while my mother was in charge, of moving in and amongst people on both sides and getting to know people and hearing things and interpreting things. And I've been picking up on some things that needed attention, but I hadn't given it the attention it was deserved until now. And I think it's something that can clear Captain Dervish. I have reason to believe that there is a group of slavers that are working out of are operating out of a base outside of town. If you can prove that there is in fact a slaver operation there, that can point the finger where it deserves to be pointed, and if he is in fact innocent, absolve Captain Dervish and his crew of any charges. In the meantime, we can work on trying to figure out the problem of these so-called diseased dwarves and others aboard the ship.
No. I got no problem scouting this place out, seeing what information can be found and setting things right. But I do have to ask a question. If we can't talk to the full council until the full council meets, what things are being done to get Manistrad, a rightful council member, off that ship?
The council members that are in opposition to our position are of the belief that she is not on the ship, that she
Captain.
never returned. That is the argument they are making.
I'll turn to Captain Firebrand. Could you bring Dervish up here and have him, cite whether or not Manistrad Copperlocks is still on his ship, or was before when he
has asserted that all of you were on board. He has asserted that you were on board until you took off on a little side quest from the Saltwater Sanctuary, and that Manistrad and the 25 dwarves were all on board. However, no one will take his word because he is believed to be a slaver.
What about the ship Manifest and Victor?
What about him?
Has anyone bothered to look at it?
Nobody's going on board the ship because they believe it is full of diseased folk. And to be perfectly honest, while Victor keeps to himself and stays on board the vessel whenever it's in port, a lot of people are pretty uneasy by his presence. So that's not a card I would play immediately out of your hand. Now, you did have a good idea, and he seems to be sort of trying to convey this to Anders, who wasn't present when you proposed this idea. If you can follow up on this lead that Anders has proposed, I can see what I can do about getting a doctor trusted by the traditionalists to make a case to get him out there to get eyes on the crew.
When someone goes out there, can they please make sure that there's, enough food and whatnot? Because they've been out there a while, and I'd hate for there to be issues.
Well, being the capable captain that he is, I'm sure Dervish had plenty on board to allow them for even more than a few days, but we'll see what we can do to assess that situation. Hopefully you can come to a resolution in your investigation sooner rather than later, and this whole thing can be put behind us.
So no one has set foot on the Evangeline.
No, the traditionalists set up some of their own fishing vessels, creating a blockade, and is allowing nobody to get near the ship.
So
how was the captain arrested then?
He took a boat to shore.
Who exactly is it that has seen these diseased slaves?
Nobody has actually seen them. But it doesn't take seeing an actual fire for somebody to claim that they smelled smoke and convince others that the barn's on fire, if you catch my drift.
Right, but if nobody has been on board the ship, then it should be an easy enough fire to douse.
If you want to try to convince people whose livelihood revolves around fishing to step foot on a vessel that could contain 25 to 30 people containing the plague, you go right ahead and do that.
What if we go out there?
At this point, until the council approves it, nobody's going to let you get near that ship unless you try to do so by force.
Are they going to try to stop us?
They're not letting even my guards.
Fishermen.
They're not letting my guards get close. They're fishermen with resources and means. These seas are teeming with monsters, and having come across them yourselves, I'm sure you've encountered the Sahuagin.
Yes, we have.
So the fishermen, the fisher folk, have to deal with and be prepared to deal with all manner of problems. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm saying you shouldn't do it. You're going to place yourself in direct opposition.
Can we have some time to discuss this? What's amongst ourselves?
I don't think there's much
to go.
I don't think there's much to discuss. We gotta, if we want to get things resolved and, get things moving along, we gotta help out the council member here and go find the real slavers.
Here's the situation. I'm going to head with Anders back into town, and we're going to get this council meeting underway as soon as possible. I think it would be a good idea, if you intend to do so, to take Anders up on his proposition, investigate what's going on the outskirts of town, and see if you can lay the blame where it belongs. It wouldn't surprise me to find out that somebody's running an operation out there and probably are trying to orchestrate this whole thing to put the blame on Dervish.
Sounds like the thread's woven from the one location to the other.
I have every intention to do that investigation that you ask with whichever of my companions are willing to aid me.
Oh, trust me, I want to find out who's behind this one.
Because in this avenue of discussion and politics and not every problem is hammer and anvil, and dealing with slavers is the closest I can see to that kind of route. So,
Is the captain still with us?
Yeah, Firebrand and Anders are both right there still.
I still want to talk amongst ourselves privately.
For that, we could step outside. It's their building. So
yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you mention that you want to talk, the Firebrand sort of gives you this look of, well, go ahead. I'm not going anywhere.
Let's step outside, friends.
All right, so you all step outside and you may talk amongst yourselves.
All right. So if we do find that these slavers, how is that necessarily going to convince them that these people don't have the plague?
You need to cover both bases. You have the plague issue on the boat. Finding a doctor that's liked by the traditionalists, great, wonderful. Hopefully we can get the results we're hoping for. But
what if we don't?
Well, that's going to be a different story now, isn't it?
So Fig, you always have interesting ideas. Do you have any ideas? You have a different perspective.
Fig just tilts his head for a moment. The words that the captain used were quite confusing to me. Talk about politics and sides to choose and lying and truth. What if we could prove that Copperlocks is on the ship? Bring something back of hers.
Unless you could bring her back, which would cause another type of riot, there's no way to prove that she's on the boat. Having something of hers is not going to prove that she is there, only that she was there.
Is there not a reason we can't get them within line of sight of each other?
I think the boats are going to do their best to prevent anything dealing with the dwarves, the boat, the council member. I honestly think the quickest way to this resolution is to let the captain see what he can do about getting someone that the traditionalists trust on board that boat to verify that they're in fact not sick. We don't have to do anything. He says he's going to do that. If we do this favor for the council member, number one, we did what he asked. He'll be more inclined to, help aid us in, getting things set aright. But then number two, if there is indeed a slaver out there, we get to, put him to justice, which, I have to say I'm pretty happy about.
Yeah, I won't complain about that one. I'm all for finding this slaver.
What if the person they send out there is on the side of this? We don't know who to trust and who not to trust.
Well, is it a matter then?
What if they lie?
I thought you said they could not in your presence, Griveth.
I was going to say, what if we sent along a little?
Well, yeah. If we ask them in my presence, I can ensure they don't lie.
That should help.
But do we want to do this to everyone?
Well, it's just like battle. It's a game of numbers. Right now, we know that there are two who stand against us. There's only one who stands on our side so far, and there's one who's undecided. If we do this for him, that at least evens the field.
Right.
Yeah, I think Anders is on our side as well as the captain, and we need to get Ministrad in town so that it's 3-on-2.
You make it easier for them to have a basis to trust us again by going and doing finding the slavers.
And the only way to do that is to go after the slavers. And I'm wound up like a kid on his birthday. I need to go do something, and maybe pounding in slavers' doors is gonna help set things right.
Well, that's the language I speak, so it works for me.
Do you think there would be any value in finding out, from the council member on the ship, before we do any of this?
I don't think there's a way.
Well, we do have Fig, and Fig does not have to breathe. But the only problem is, how does Fig get on the ship?
Yeah, he could walk across the bottom, climb up the anchor, but
Oh, the anchor! I didn't think about the anchor. Yeah.
What if there's, creatures out there? What if he gets attacked? He doesn't have, the support. We work together as a team.
That would be a danger, and it would be up to Fig to decide if he was willing to accept that danger.
And again, what could Fig do or bring back that would prove anything to the council members or to the entire town? We just keep going around in circles.
Fig would definitely know whether they're diseased or not.
I think we'll be more likely to get the check and see if they're diseased if we come back with a, hey, look at what we found footing.
And maybe the council member has something to tell us.
Maybe the council members have some explaining to do when we get back.
Well, if we do manage to find these slavers and deal with them, then at least we have something to put on the scales. We can come and say, as payment, you should hear us out.
That's if we find if they give us information or we find information. If they don't tell us anything, we won't be any further than we were when we started.
If we find slavers, we'll make them tell us. I promise.
Only challenge will be is actually making sure we keep them alive.
Although I can make people tell the truth, I can't force them.
Well, I can force them after death.
What?
I'm just saying.
What?
I have a little trick up my sleeve where if they happen to kind of, kick the bucket, we have 5 questions.
When did you become a necromancer?
Oh, I've been many mancers of many things.
I love that quote.
Griffith gets a shiver.
I've been many mancers of many things. That covers necromancy, romancy,
Pyromancy.
pyromancy.
Sleepmancy.
Oh, that was funny.
All right.
What?
I'm with the group, but I'm just postulating these questions.
Right.
I mean, if we go out there and we defeat these slavers, that's great. But what if we don't get any information? Those people are still stuck on the ship.
We're gonna get information one way or the other.
All right. Because the longer we take, the more desperate their situation could get. What if they're sick? What if they're really sick?
Then we need to get this.
They could die by the time we get back.
Not if we hurry. We need to come back with more clout under our belts than what we have right now.
There's a noise at the door as the door to the jail opens, and Anders and Captain Firebrand emerge, and they're in discussion. Behind them emerges 4 armed guards who immediately take up position in front of the jailhouse door. Anders moves forward and says, "I'm sorry I did not have the time to make a proper introduction with the 5 of you, but I do hope you can get to the bottom of this slaver situation. If you can, in fact, find somebody who is running the slave operation out of this area, I do believe that this is going to go a long ways to proving Captain Dervis's innocence. Captain Firebrand has told me of your plan, and I think it's an incredible plan, to hire a barber surgeon from Saltmarsh, whom the traditionalists trust, to go to the ship. I believe we can convince those running the blockade to allow this, as it will be in their best interest. We believe we have somebody that we can trust to do this."
Would our man Fig be allowed to go also?
Would you not want this Fig with you on your mission?
We would wait.
No, maybe the better thing would
It's
be...
going to
have
take a
the-
little while to make the arrangements and convince them it could take a day or more.
Griffith, you can always have them do the truth test with you after the fact. Make that part of the deal. We question the doctor in Griffith's presence to make sure the truth is being told.
Okay.
All right, well, the information that I've gotten has put that these so-called slavers, if they are in fact operating, they're working out of a location about 4 miles up the coast, and he indicates up the eastern coast. It's believed that they could be operating out of the old haunted house up that way, which kind of would make sense. There's a lot of people here that hold the belief that this is a haunted house and will stay away from it. The way he says this haunted house in quotes, he seems to be kind of trying to play it off like he doesn't believe in it, but you can also sense a little bit of nervousness, like maybe he does believe that this house is haunted. Trust that we will keep things moving on our end and making progress, and I will look forward. We will look forward to your return. Hopefully,
I'll be more
with
than happy
information.
to get this going right now and get this settled.
Yes, let's just get this over with.
You can see, that Thorgarn is pretty antsy. He's having a hard time staying still.
I have one more task to complete before we head out of town. I have some ale to buy.
I think I will go with you and, share in that cost. And while there, it might calm these nerves just a touch.
Yeah, if you made promises to buy some drinks and you made those promises to dwarves, well, I don't have to tell you to.
Nope.
All right, you do what you need to do. And, well, the sooner you can get to the bottom of this, the sooner we can get this resolved. I feel confident that I can give you my word, between Captain Firebrand and myself, there will be no action taken against Captain Dervish and his crew until you return and we have a chance to put you in front of the council with your findings. And perhaps we'll have had some luck with our doctor as well.
And I can count on you for that, sir?
Absolutely. And he actually reaches out, and you see that as he came out of the jail, he had pulled on some thin lambskin leather gloves, but he pulls one of them off of his right hand and extends his hand to you to shake your hand.
Can I insight?
Yeah.
That's 20.
He meets you eye to eye when he shakes your hand, and you see that he means what he says. Whoever this man, Anders Salmar, is, he seems to be a man of his word.
Awesome.
So, the Dawnbringers are going to head down into town to the Wicker Goat to make good on a promise to purchase some drinks in settling the quelling of this riot that will potentially give them a chance to maybe learn a little bit more about the supposed haunted house that they're going to be heading to. About the time you're going to be heading to the Wicker Goat when we pick up next session, it'll be right around the lunchtime hour. Enough time has passed. You had gone in the early morning. It's probably around noon, 1 o'clock, when you guys head to the tavern, and that's where we will pick up next week. As you guys are actually, things worked out. You are actually going to be embarking on one of the adventures in Ghosts of Saltmarsh.
As we head down to the tavern, do we find out we've leveled up?
You have not leveled up yet. Remember, so for those who are watching, and if you're following on the D&D Beyond overlay on the stream, you'll see that our characters, actually, I think you have to click through on them to see that they are level 7. You hit level 5 really quickly, and I believe you guys hit level 7 at the tail end of season 2. But I had told you it was going to take you longer to make levels once you got above 5. You'll have an opportunity to level up, but you got to do a little bit more than buy some drinks and convince some people not to go to blows. So
yeah, no worries. I'm just looking forward to rage smiting. So
yeah, I kind of so we set this up that Ghost of Saltmarsh was going to be run as more of a limited sandbox, with situations kind of dictating, well, it proved to be fortuitous to take off on that little side quest with Ira. It seems to have caused a bit of problems back in Saltmarsh, with you guys not arriving along with everybody else as anticipated. But since you've been in Saltmarsh, you have learned quite a bit about the political stability and instability of the region. And you have met at least 2 key council members who seem to be allies. And you have met a powerful noble, though you don't know exactly what her standing is. In the last session, you met the Lady Vantage, who did say that at some point she would like to have all of you come by for dinner. So things are getting off to a wonderful start. As it just kind of worked out in this, like I said, with this limited sandbox. I wanted to see how things worked out with the riot. You all did wonderful, by the way, just in the way you navigated and used, your individual and group skills to stop that from escalating. And you kind of, through your role play and everything, things kind of leaned in this direction. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen next. So thank you to everybody in the chat. It's been an active chat tonight. We've picked up quite a few new followers to the channel, so I'm very appreciative of that. To any of you that are in the chat right now who recently followed, thank you. You will not be disappointed. We have lots of great games on the channel. I want to say a special thank you to Lionhead Gaming, who recently raided with 25 viewers, and to our friends over at Unmade Gaming, who recently raided, actually right at the break, they raided with 16 viewers. Each of those raids earning you another domain die, putting your total back up to 108 domain dice. I will get new graphics put in place. It's actually not even graphics. I just got to go in and add a couple new modifier numbers for that plus 100 up above. And then thank you to a couple of others that subscribe to the channel as well, and to KY Hawkeye for the for those additional bits. We appreciate all of that, and as I said at the break, we appreciate you hanging out with us in the chat as we play this game. If you like watching other D&D and role-playing games, be sure to tune in tomorrow night for Mini Terrain Domain Presents, a CFT RPG production of Curse of Strahd, as Alan Holloway and a wonderful group of players have their 3rd session in the Curse of Strahd adventure as one of 2 channels that I have the honor of hosting here right on this channel. Sunday nights, this coming Sunday, we will be returning for our so many games. Cult of Personality, our Tomb of Annihilation game. Monday nights is our regular All That Glitters. Every other Tuesday is Legends and Legacies, all official D&D 5e. Last night was Spire, The City Must Fall, a Dice on Ice production of a Mini Terrain Domain Presents game, the only non-D&D game currently going on the channel. So lots of great stuff to be seen here at the channel. Be sure to follow all these wonderful people, and I want to say a final wonderful thank you to Scotty, V, Megan, Ted, and Jeremy. I love my Thursday nights, and I love you guys. This just is so much fun and is always a great way to end a Thursday. So thank you, everybody. We will see you all later. We're going to go ahead and end this stream the same way we end every stream. And you can say it with me if you want.